With the statuses of Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton still in limbo, the Twins dropped back-to-back series in a week defined by costly mistakes, miscues, and meltdowns. Minnesota is losing ground in the AL Central at a time where they need to be gaining it. And the question that needs to be asked, is this team running out of gas? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Twins Daily Week in Review podcast. I am Nick Nelson, your host, coming to you in the wake of another heart-sinking loss for your Minnesota Twins. Been a lot of those lately, and a tough week for us to review. But as usual, we will bring you all the highlights, lowlights, and storylines you need to know about from the past 7 days of Twins baseball in about 20 minutes or so. You can also find this content on the website, twinsdaily.com, as a written article where you're welcome to come and comment and share your own thoughts on what's going on with the team right now. But let's dive right into it with your weekly snapshot for Monday, August 19th through Sunday, August 25th. Twins went 2-4 in their 6 games last week. That pushes their overall record on the 2024 season to 72-58, still 14 games above 500. Their run differential was positive last week despite the losing record, +3. Overall in the season, they have outscored their opponents by a healthy 73 runs. And the Twins end the week here on Sunday tied for second place in the American League Central, 3 games behind. They lost 1 game in the standings to Cleveland, so could have been worse. Guardians still not playing their best ball overall, so still a very tightly packed 3-team race here in the Central with the Twins and Royals both 4.5 games clear of the Boston Red Sox for that third wild card spot. So both teams pretty comfortably still in playoff position here as we enter the last week of August. Let's take a quick game-by-game rundown of the past week. Twins opened up against the San Diego Padres on Monday with a 5-3 loss. Zebby Matthews running into some trouble in his second MLB start. Twins fell behind early, could not come back. The following day, the Twins lost 7-5 in a game characterized by bullpen and base running blunders abound. Managed to come back and salvage a game in that series on Wednesday, an 11-4 victory. Twins rebounding resoundingly there to avoid the sweep with a big game for the offense. They had a day off on Thursday and returned home to start a homestand against the St. Louis Cardinals, who won 6-1 on Friday. Twins pitchers could not find the zone in that game. The bats could not find a pulse, a pretty sleepy loss there. Twins bounced back to win on Saturday behind Pablo Lopez, a great outing from him and some good power hitting from the lineup. They won 6-0 and closed out the series with a 3-2 loss. Edouard Julien committing a 9th inning error that was extremely costly in that one, turned a lead into a loss for the Twins, so they drop a second straight series in a 2-4 week. Before we get to the highlights and lowlights of the week, let's quickly get caught up on the news and notes, roster and injury updates. The Twins remain in a holding pattern with their 2 best players, as Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton remain sidelined with no clear timelines for return. Buxton was eligible to return from the 10-day injured list on Friday, but was not activated over the weekend. He told reporters that his hip is still bothering him when he runs, which is the final hurdle that he feels he needs to clear. Buxton hoping to avoid a rehab stint when he's ready to go, but the longer that he's out of action, the less feasible that plan becomes. More ominously, the Twins had little in the way of an update this past week on Carlos Correa, who still seems to be at the mercy of a heel injury that refuses to, heal. The latest on the All-Star shortstop is that he's, quote, moving around okay, 6 weeks into his latest plantar fasciitis ordeal, but he apparently hasn't yet progressed to running in cleats or sprinting daily. Correa revealed over the weekend that he had a minor setback a couple weeks ago, but didn't elaborate on the specifics of that. He said he still expects to return this season, but that no longer feels like anything close to a guarantee as this thing lingers and his return continues to not be imminent. The Twins are rightfully playing things safe with both Buxton and Correa, recognizing that the long game matters most, but these nebulous injuries are putting the team in a tough position, and the effects are starting to be felt more in terms of on-field results. In happier news, Brooks Lee is officially on the comeback trail, and his return could do much to fill that Correa-sized void in the infield for the Twins. Brooks Lee started a rehab assignment with the Saints on Saturday night. He batted second and played DH. Homered in his first at-bat. Love to see it. On Sunday, he started again. Once again, batted second in the lineup and played second base. Notched 3 hits in that game, including a pair of doubles. So looking healthy, looking ready to go. I think he's likely to rejoin the Twins on the upcoming or this current homestand, and maybe as soon as Monday. Alex Kirilloff also started a rehab stint in AAA over the weekend, but his did not go so well. After playing just one game for St. Paul on Friday, Kirilloff experienced a flare-up of the back issue that has had him on the shelf for nearly half the season. He has been shut down again, and this may spell the end of Kirilloff's season, unfortunately. After a mediocre first half, Steven Okert became downright unusable following the All-Star break with a 9.82 ERA and 6-5 strikeout to walk ratio. His spiral into oblivion left the Twins with little choice but to move on, and they did so on Saturday, designating Okert for assignment and replacing him on the roster with Scott Blewett, who himself had been DFA'd earlier this month. Stayed in the organization, though, and now the Twins are going to bring him back into the fold. We can now firmly describe, I think, the offseason trade that brought Steven Okert to Minnesota in exchange for Nick Gordon, who was also DFA'd earlier this month by the Marlins, as a lose-lose. Didn't really work out for either team on that front. Let's jump into some of the highlights from the past week. A losing week for the Twins, but they still had a couple real nice ball games and some strong performances. Trevor Larnach is locked in right now, coming off one of his best weeks of the season. He notched 4 hits in Wednesday's blowout win against San Diego, and then homered twice off Sonny Gray in Saturday's victory over the Cards. Larnach has 6 extra base hits and 7 RBIs over his past 8 games. That outstanding production is justifying his premium placements in Rocco Baldelli's lineups, where he is typically batting second or third against right-handed pitchers, and also helping to counterbalance the ongoing absences of Correa and Buxton. Larnach's bat has been huge in that regard, as has Matt Wallner. He refuses to slow down, keeps on bringing the thump alongside Larnach in the lineup, and his power was on full display in a 5-for-16 week for Wallner that included 2 homers, 2 doubles, and 5 RBIs. Notably, Wallner struck out only 4 times in 20 plate appearances, and he's got his strikeout rate under 30% in the month of August, which I view as a really promising sign. Right now, Wallner is simply one of the best hitters in baseball, making it sort of wild in retrospect that he had to spend almost half the season down in AAA. I tweeted this today. Among MLB hitters with 150 or more plate appearances, Matt Wallner ranks 5th in OPS, and the 4 guys ahead of him on that list are Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani, and can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a stacked list to say the least. I mean, Wallner is really up there with the big names. On Saturday night, Pablo Lopez spun 7 shutout innings against St. Louis, striking out 9 with just 1 walk. Baldelli deemed Lopez's stuff in the outing as, quote, probably the best he's had all year. After Baldelli watched Lopez just shred through Cardinals hitters in that game, he really bared down and made some big pitches in some key spots. Lopez has completed 7 innings in 3 of 7 starts since the All-Star break, and he has a 2.25 ERA in that span. Needless to say, that really is the guy the Twins need him to be, truly that frontline ace. They're going to need to keep seeing that down the stretch and hopefully in the playoffs. Simeon Woods-Richardson, meanwhile, has been everything the Twins could have asked for and more. He delivered another very strong performance on Wednesday, helping the team salvage a win in San Diego with 5 innings of 1-run ball. Woods-Richardson struck out 7 and lowered his ERA to 3.69 as the Twins improved to a 15-7 record in his starts this year. What's most encouraging about Simeon Woods-Richardson is that, as he's venturing here into unprecedented workload territory, he only seems to be getting stronger. His velocity has progressively increased over the course of the season. It was averaging, the fastball was averaging 92.8 miles per hour in April, and it's up to 93.7 in August. So he's added almost a full tick to that fastball, and that matters. And it's really good to see for a guy who is getting late into the season and hasn't necessarily thrown this many innings before. On Wednesday's start, he was touching 97 as he approached 100 pitches. Really, really good to see. So Simeon Woods Richardson defying and greatly exceeding expectations, and his consistently strong play really raises the question: is he a playoff starter? I think that's the case he's going to be looking to make, while also working to help get the Twins there and get into a good position with the playoffs now only 5 weeks away. The lowlights for a week in which the Twins dropped both of their series and a couple games they really should have won. Sloppy baseball ruled the day for a Twins team that has now coughed up late leads in 3 of their past 8 games, turning much-needed victories into losses with botched execution in the most costly of circumstances. Edouard Julien was on his way to a positive evaluation last week as he started to find some semblance of life at the plate. He had a 4-hit game on Tuesday. He had a couple hits in Sunday's game while the offense generally struggled. But he erased all those good vibes with a brutal 9th-inning error on Sunday that ended up costing his team the game. Earlier in the week, the Twins ran into several outs on the base paths in a 2-run loss to San Diego. These are simply not the kinds of blunders and this sloppy play that a team in such a tight race as this one can keep making over and over again. The Twins are down several of their best players, and they just don't have the margin for error to withstand it. Got to clean it up, and in a hurry. Beyond the general sloppiness, the biggest area of concern for the Twins has got to be the bullpen, which does not really appear equipped for the burden it needs to bear for the Twins. Okert went out on a very sour note, rapidly coughed up 4 runs to blow a lead in Tuesday's loss to San Diego, and then contributed to an erratic mess of a performance from the pitching staff on Friday, which featured 9 walks, including one from Okert. Trevor Richards also took part in that clunker of a game, issuing 3 walks while throwing just 23 of 44 pitches for strikes. Trevor Richards has been an ineffective, inexplicable deadline acquisition for the Twins. Don't really see the point of bringing in a guy who you don't seem to trust, and with good reason. I mean, he completely loses control of where the ball is going constantly, and you can see this reflected in the way Baldelli is using him now, really only in deficit spots of late. What is the purpose of bringing in a guy that's not going to pitch any meaningful innings? I don't know. And even at that, it seems like it's hard to trust him to even get through these innings. Honestly, Richards would probably be following Okert and Jay Jackson and Josh Staumont out the door if the team had any remaining depth with which to oust him. But they're running dry. That is plain enough to see in the re-addition of Scott Blewett, who, while offering some intrigue, was himself DFA'd by the Twins earlier this month and went unclaimed on waivers. The front office is to the point of grasping for straws at an absolute critical point of the season, and that's not good to see. As the Twins juggle the bottom of their bullpen, they're also starting to look shakier at the top, with Jorge Alcala in a major rut. After completely bombing in last Sunday's appearance against Texas, Alcala was mostly given a break this past week, making just 1 appearance, but that was another worrisome one. Alcala threw just 12 of 25 pitches for strikes against St. Louis on Friday, issued 2 walks, and gave up his 5th home run in the month of August. He had given up just 1 home run all year previous to this month. The Twins can ill afford to have Alcala continue down this path. They are already short on high leverage arms that they can remotely count on. So hopefully this restful week following a stretch of extensive usage for Alcala can help him get back on track. This team will need to find quality innings wherever they can to get through the final 5 weeks and accomplish their mission, and hopefully make a push in October. The rookies in the rotation are flashing plenty of upside, but none of them, Woods Richardson, Zebby Matthews, nor David Festa, pitched past the 5th inning in their 4 combined starts last week, despite a couple really solid outings being mixed in there from Zebby and Simeon. That's going to likely be the norm. These guys are being managed carefully in terms of pitch counts and repetitions through the lineup, for better or worse. A situation like Tuesday, where Okert was used with a 2-run lead in the 8th, was in some ways the byproduct of how hard guys like Alcala and Yohan Duran and Griffin Jacks have been pushed already. Preventing them from burning out is paramount. That is a top priority for Rocco Baldelli. At the same time, though, he has little choice but to turn to his few best arms in close games, given the lack of reliable options at his disposal and the stakes of these games in the standings. So now, with Jax and Duran both having pitched in a loss on Sunday and having pitched back-to-back Saturday and Sunday, we are once again heading into a new week where the Twins will find themselves probably without them available for the first game of their upcoming series, which was the same spot they were in basically last week. And that starts to build up on you. It's a conundrum for Baldelli and the Twins, and the only thing that will solve it is more pitchers stepping up, or in some cases getting healthy, which takes us to our trending storyline. This is what I've got my eyes on here as we flip the calendar to a new week and enter the final week of August, start looking towards September. Chris Paddack is lined up for an MRI on Tuesday, August 27th, which should provide some clarity on the state of his elbow and his outlook for the rest of the season. It was notable, I think, that the Twins scheduled this MRI kind of far out. This has been planned for at least 10 days ago. I had written about it on Twins Daily. The fact that they're not rushing to get this scan done kind of suggests to me that they're not expecting things to move very quickly. So I find myself somewhat skeptical about Paddack's situation, his ability to ramp up and make an impact here before year's end. Certainly not as a starter, but as a reliever, depending on what we learn this week, it's possible he could follow a similar program to what he did last year, where he made a couple of relief appearances in late September, set himself up for a postseason bullpen role. Certainly, given what we just discussed about the Twins bullpen and its depth, that would be very useful. Paddack threw some good innings for the Twins in the playoffs last year. So hard to say which way this is going to go right now, but we should have some clarity within a couple days, as to whether we can realistically hope that Paddack's going to be able to come back and make any kind of impact for the Twins this year. Looking ahead, as we always do, to the upcoming week of baseball, it's more tough sledding ahead for the Twins, who will welcome a very good Atlanta Braves team to Target Field for a series opening up on Monday. They will be followed by the Toronto Blue Jays, who are in last place in the American League East. They've had a bit of a disappointing season, but that's a tough division, and this team is still a threat. They're not going to be an easy assignment by any means. Some interesting pitching matchups on the docket, so let's quickly run through them. In the Braves-Twins series on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at Target Field, it'll be Max Fried versus Bailey Ober on Monday, Spencer Schwellenbach versus Simeon Woods-Richardson on Tuesday, and then Chris Sale versus David Festa in the series finale on Wednesday. Twins will get the day off on Thursday, and then in the Blue Jays series, it'll be Kevin Gausman versus Pablo Lopez. Great matchup there. On Saturday, Jose Barrios, our old friend, versus our new friend, Zebby Matthews. And on Sunday, it'll be Yariel Rodriguez against Bailey Ober. So kind of a, Barrios, it'll be great to see him again, having a solid year, not a great year, not getting a lot of strikeouts, but really interesting, I think, to see Chris Sale and Kevin Gausman on successive days there, or in successive games there. Two guys that the Twins sort of notoriously have randomly had this really exceptional outlier success against compared to other teams. And we even saw that when the Twins jumped on Gausman in the playoffs last year. So that'll be a game one of the playoffs rematch there with him and Lopez on Friday night. Should be some good baseball, should be some high stakes baseball. Hopefully the Twins will get Buxton back relatively soon. It sounds like Korea is a little further off, but the Twins maybe starting to give way a little bit under the weight of everything they faced, all these major injuries, a lot of close losses. They're really being tested here as we get to the end of August, and they've got some work to do here. Still 3 games out of first, tied for second, but still in playoff position. So we thank you for joining us. Please make sure to swing by twinsdaily.com. Lots of great conversation happening on the site right now. It is a emotional, dramatic, riveting part of the season, and really fun to follow along with everyone. So we'd love to hear from you. We appreciate any feedback on the podcast or reviews if you enjoy the show. And we will be back with you next week to review another 7 days of Twins baseball, hopefully a good one. So take care, everybody.